Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Naman Khan, a volunteer for PSSM India. And this is the third video in the series of books and beliefs. And for this series we have picked up, I have decided to live 120 years by Ilchi. In the first two videos, we focused on what we learned from the first two chapters. So in every video is dedicated to one chapter. And we learned that why Ilchi decided to live 120 years, why 120 years in specific, uh, how to go about planning is something that we focused on between the first two videos, where we focused how to divide 120 years into first 60 years and next 60 years. And we again moved on from that topic, we moved on to learning about how the mind works, what is the relevance of first 60 years, and we also knew what is the relevance of next 60 years. What role does elder have in a society? We also focused on why do we have this mindset where after we take off from work, retire from work, why does our decline start? We understood that in Germany, the age of retirement was 56 years in 1886, while the average lifespan was 50 years. Over 120, 130 years, we have seen that the average lifespan has changed from 50 to 79, but the retirement age is somewhere around 50, 56, 60. So we also got so for all of those of you who are new, I welcome you all. For those of you who have seen the first two videos, I thank you and I welcome you to see this video as well as we embark the journey to understand more about this book and the philosophy behind this book. So today we are going to talk about one of the most important phenomena of our life, one that is certain. That is certain that definitely it will happen in our life, and that is death. In the previous videos, we understood that death, according to a general perception of death, is that life ends. But Ilchi said that it's not the end of a life; death is the completion of life. And I want to understand from all of you that how does it feel when you have to think that any moment of your life could be your last moment, any moment you could die. And most certainly, if not a premature death, with which, the average lifespan if somebody died before it, and we call it premature death. And even if we don't have premature death, how does it make you feel when you think that you won't be, or you and I won't be here after some point in life? Most people would feel, okay, leave most people, just you and me. So, would you feel happy or excited to feel further experiences? If you don't believe life after that, then it's lights off. But would you feel anxious or remorse? Based on the feeling, Ilchi says that the feeling that you get determines the quality of your life, determines what type of life you are having. And when I say that the quality of your life, so death is the ultimate decision maker. It has the power to motivate you. It has the power to, get you off your seats, or it has the power to make you depressed. So he says that thinking about death is not about negative feelings. It's about how you can understand that you're going to die at some point in time, and how can I focus on that last part, on from where I am, what changes can I make into myself, that when my last moment comes, I should not be able to feel any sort of remorse or anxious or any that type of sadness. And it actually helps me feel. So that's where he says that death is kind of one of the best blessings to humanity, because it makes you feel real, that you make your, you make very conscious decisions. You focus, you're active all the time when you know that you have limited time, and it's more peaceful. It gives you some sort of happiness, because death, the phenomenon is certain that it's going to happen one day. How you choose to face it, it when you realize and you think about death, right now while watching this video, when you're thinking about death, it becomes um, much crucial for you to, eventually understand, mark yourself where you stand, and then eventually make changes accordingly so that you can improve over time. And, when you're facing your last moment, you and I should not be anxious or, caught up in different things. It should be happiness, peaceful, with smile we should on. So this is because the reason it is more important, another reason that it is most important is because it enable us to live a better life, a life that makes you more aware of your decisions, of your actions, of your words, and your environment. And more or less, he says that the death is mostly on the physical level. What happens? Your brain stops working, your heart stops working, pumping blood into your body, your organs don't work. But it's your breathing stops. And he says that none of the death that we experience is ideal. What it means by that is, he says in the book that he has noticed a lot of doctors and nurses who have experienced a lot of their deaths, and he says that all the death that they have managed to see are in a way, they categorize it. They can easily tell by how the person has lived based on the death he's having. So he writes in the book that not all the deaths are identical. People who don't think that they have led an ideal life, their body becomes rigid, they are unable to move, their breath becomes ragged, and they're unable to, you can see a visible tension on their faces. And it's very certain that the person has not lived up to his or her potential. And he says that people who think that they have lived up to their potential, their body is at peace. They don't show any sort of restraint in their body, no tension. They just have a smile and they go with a smile. And they said that the doctors who have witnessed all of this, they simply say that out of most of the time, before talking to people before the deathbed, people with who have faced a lot of tensions, and those who have not lived the category in which people have, they think that they have not lived to their potential. They are very confused at the very moment. And people who have they lived their life with full authority, with full dedication, and they've completed what they're supposed to achieve. They've achieved all of those things. They just pass on their wisdom and move on. So then death becomes one of the, I would say, death becomes one of the most, based on all both of these cases, I think the death is one of the most important phenomenon in our lives, because it keeps us focused on what type of life do we want. Because at the end of the day, it's what type of life do you want than how many days you achieved anything. Because at the end of the day, you only remember the feelings that you've got, not exactly the moment. Some moment which are very special to you, yes, you will remember. But all in all, you will mostly remember the feelings behind those good, happy movement, and you will remember the sorrow. And that sorrow adds up at the end. So that's where he says that the death keeps us focused, keeps us aware of our daily actions, of our daily lives. And he says one of the interesting points that he put through the book was, if you remove death from the equation of life, if no one ever dies, how will you feel? The most important thing here to understand is that he says that if you never die, how will you feel? If you know that you have to focus, you have to live every day, you have to focus on getting your food, you have to focus on managing a family, you have to focus on making something for yourself, from money wise, so that you can sustain yourself, sustain people who are dependent on you. If you have to do it forever, how will it be? And imagine your life day in and day out for thousands of years. If you do the same thing day in and day out, how will it be? And when I read this for the first time, I actually thought to myself, life would be pretty boring because I don't want to do the same thing. I don't want to struggle, not struggle, but I don't want to work all the time to ensure that, if I think in terms of 1,000 years, I don't want to work till I'm 1,000, because certainly the body, you know, will not grow, and it's not natural. And I felt that it would be pretty boring if I live forever and I'm doing all these tasks that eventually makes me lazy, and eventually gets all the motivation out of me, because I have infinite time. There is no concept of time, and I'm not going to do anything, because I know that 1,000 years, 100 years down the line, I'll still be here. I'll still have the time, and and no one will die, and it'll only be population that will increase. And it seemed a little bit of monotony that I thought that it's just there. It would come in. And when I thought that the monotony for everyday work, everyday task that would come in, uh, same will come in for my personal growth. Same will come in for my spiritual enlightenment or my spiritual journey. I will become a little careless, because, who doesn't have time then? I know the life is not limited. It's without limits. It's limitless. So he said that if you take death out of the equation, you will lose the will to grow, and that's why death is sorry. That's why death is very, very important to help you through your spiritual awakening. Because since you know that your time is limited, hence you want to make, the time that you have, you want to make the most out of it. And the main reason is the uncertainty, because you never know when will be your last moment. It could be a premature, death, or you would take 10 more years or 5 more years, or maybe, 100 more years. But he says that because of the uncertainty, we are more focused than ever to achieve what we want to achieve, because then it becomes very easy for us to smile when we are at the end of our lives. And that's where we are heading, and that's where we should be. At that point, we should be able to pass on the wisdom on to others, that why a life of fulfillment, why a life of completion is very important. So there he says that if their life is infinite, there is no will, uh, there is no way to that you would be more competitive. There is no competition, because then you have no reason. And Ilchi writes that in the Korean culture, he says that in Korean culture there are a lot of ways by which you explain death. And he said that based on your quality of life, you can actually dictate, you can actually define what type of death a person is going through. He says that death is it easily defines, it puts you in, basically what it does is it puts you in a category. And once you realize that you're in a category, and these are the three more categories that you have to, let's say, achieve, it becomes very easy for your mind to, go from point A to point B, point C. And that's what it is. So the first, so all these words are in Korea. So please, uh, pardon. Okay, thank you. So the first type of death is Dueda. Dueda is the lowest form of death. It's something that you will not like to, either be around the person, or you won't like to be, um, you won't be motivated, or rather you would rather have the feeling of hatred or some sort of negative emotions towards the person. It may be because of the soul design of the person. It may be because of the, what they choose to do in their life. It's something of a, the negative emotion would be like this person, the sentiment that would come out of anyone who looks at a person who is in the, Dueda category would be, this person deserves to die. He's no better than an animal. And this is the lowest form of death, which he says that everyone should avoid, because it's just, how I'll say it, like you should go to hell. There is a place for hell, in hell for you, all those of stuff. So this is the lowest form of death. Then Jukda. Jukda is referred to an ordinary death. You have no emotions towards it. You're just indifferent. These are the types of people who, they don't have hatred in their heart. They don't do anything wrong. It's just they're, you know, they just didn't do anything in life, neither positive nor negative. They were not good or bad. No one knows about them. They're just quietly doing their own work, and then just, there is no purpose to life. They He says that it's a very ordinary death and conveys no emotions whatsoever. And he says that we should also avoid this type of life, because then we are just a burden on others. Next is Dora Gashida. Dora Gashida means a deceased who has returned to the place from where they came. It's We generally use it for parents, for elders in the society, out of respect. They have done nothing. They've just done something for themselves and, people immediately around them. And out of respect, we put them in this category, Dora Gashida, where he says that, it's usually the word is used in, when you mourn for someone's death, is, from where they came, they went back to that place. Then he talks about the next is Seogeo or Bunjio. These two words are similar, and it's referred to people who have lived at a certain level where they have served the nation or the public. They are transcending personal and family interests that they have achieved it. It would refer to someone who has done social work, who has done something good for the society. They have been instrumental in helping other human beings. And they are generally a very good category of people, like our leaders, like some of the business leaders, all those folks. And this is, he says that most people who have done something good in their life, they are in this category where no one talks anything wrong about them. It just affects them. And he says that most of us fall in this category where we have served, we have done our bit in, directly or indirectly, and we are focusing on something that is of a higher purpose. We think, people in this category think that they have, they're very, everything, they're part of something big and they contribute to that part. And the next that he talked about was Chunwa. Chunwa, Ilchi says that Chunwa is the highest category of death. It's the most respectable type of death that you can achieve in this human form. In Korean culture, he says that Chunwa is the type of death which is complete. You have taken care of yourself, you have taken care of your family, of your society, of your nation, of the world, and you are aligned to your own soul. You are aligned, you know your purpose, you exactly know why you're here, and you do all of it, and then you depart. It's the perfect death in Korean culture. And Ilchi says that people, the death of someone who has lived a life of culture in Korean Sundo is Chunwa. So now what is Korean Sundo? Korean Sundo is a holistic self-development program that you use to, in, to it. So basically Sundo started off as a tradition, as a technique that was very widely used in Korea. And Sundo, so when the Korean country was invaded, these monks, basically it's a form of Taoism. It's known as mountain Taoism. And he says that Sundo is the type of art that these monks took to the mountains when the country was invaded. And they were silently practicing this tradition for thousands of years. And 60 years ago, this art or this holistic mindset became mainstream in Korea, and for thousands of years, he says that this tradition was passed on from teachers to students. And he says that Korean Sundo defines Chunwa as the completion of life. And he says that and that's how they define death. If you've seen my first two videos, you would have seen that Chunwa is, I've mentioned it a couple of times, that death is not the end of life. It's the completion of life. And this is true according to Sundo, Korean Sundo, that Chunwa defines death as the completion of life. And in Chunwa, so what does it mean? What does Chunwa means? So Chunwa simply means Chun, which means heaven, and Wa, which means being. If I combine these two words, it's becoming heaven, or becoming, or heavenly transformation, or becoming heavenly. This is the meaning of Chunwa. And what does heaven mean? It's not a physical location which is there, above us. It's heaven defines the source of life. It's heavenly nature that connects us all. It's wholeness. And becoming whole is Chunwa. And very interestingly, Ilchi defines it as the story of caterpillar. How a caterpillar, grows. He patiently waits. He, instead of eating food, he starts to, take out silk to create cocoon. And he stays in the cocoon patiently waiting and growing, and eventually he becomes a butterfly which can stretch the wings and spread the colors. And he says the life of a caterpillar is exactly this. To complete the cycle, he has to become a butterfly and eventually depart. And he said that humans also have the same seed, where humans can understand what their life is and how they can fulfill the purpose. And this seed, he said that this seed of wholeness is the soul. And the most fundamental rule that humans can achieve is around their own soul rather than the body. After all, no matter how much you preserve your body, it's your soul who will accompany you. Wow. This, I think, is the most profound thinking that we have gone through. Personally, I have gone through. And it's very interesting to know that I will repeat it one more time for everyone. He said, Ilchi says that when you are, when you see a caterpillar become a butterfly, the seed that it has in itself, a seed for completion, is the same seed that every human possesses in themselves. He says that you have your body and you have a soul. As the time passes, as we grow older, our body becomes fragile, it becomes weak, it needs support over time. But the soul always remains the same. And if you are going, if you think in terms of infinity, if you think in terms of physically, you cannot live forever. But if you think that you want to live forever, by your, by your later generations, he says that you have to think in terms of your soul and not your body, because at the end of the day, it's your soul which will take you to infinity, not your body. Some wow, some of us think that the body is everything. Some of us think, yes, it is very important that you take care of your body because you are living in it. The body is supporting your system. I'm not denying the fact. The body is equally important. But if you know the fact that this body is for your support system, it's your temple where you live, but who you are, at the end of the day, you are a soul who is living in a temple. And he says that once you know this simple fact, you will start thinking in terms of soul, in terms of connecting to your soul, working around your soul and not around your body. Because your soul can transcend into infinity, and your physical life, although it's important right now for me it's for next 90 years, it's very important, but it still has its limitation. As I said, 90 years. But soul is for, as we learned earlier, that the soul is it's a form of energy. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed from one thing to another. So he says that if you want to live your life of completion, you have to ensure that your life is centered around your soul, and it's not centered around its body. And then he says that yes, you have to live in your body, but you have to work with your soul. And I think he says that if you can understand this simple concept, it will become your driving force. It will become your guiding force that will push you to achieve whatever you want to achieve in this lifetime. And it will help you take this learning to your next lifetime. And with this, I would like to thank you for your patience. And for this video, we have an exercise. You have to answer for yourself when you die, when you are on the face of your death, how will you feel? And when you write this answer, please make sure to feel what you're going, as per your current life, what you're feeling. And when you do this exercise, you will see that you will see your shortcomings. You will see your, your high grounds, where you're stronger, where you're weak, and it will help you to put your focus onto things that you're weak at, and it will help you put things into perspective on where you're strong at, and it will give you a much clear clarity in your life and where your life is heading, and what you should do to turn your life into something even good or even greater than you already are. And I would like to thank you. And in the next video, today we spoke about death and types of death, and the relevance of death, importance of death, and all those things. In next video, we are going to learn about energy. How many types of energies are there? What is the importance of each energy? How it is important? How you can align those energies so that you can reach Chunwa, which is the completion of your life. And I would like to suggest you to stick around for the next video. And if you have done the exercises, thank you so much for the responses. You can email the responses to me at I have decided to live 120 years at gmail.com. I'm looking forward to your responses. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I will see you as soon as possible. Namaskar.